And just to show you guys that you can use these on not only Fujifilm files, but any type of files really. I'm going to edit first a Nikon D750 file. And basically I'm going to show you guys how I apply my preset. Again, it's not a one-click preset. There's a lot of other YouTubers, a lot of other photographers that, you know, kind of advertise that presets can be one click, but I don't really believe in that. I believe every single photo has a different type of edit. So that's pretty much how I format the presets. Are kind of like a very versatile starting point, but you got to have your own interpretation and your own knowledge of Lightroom to kind of bring it to that final product. So for this photo, I took it in New York City with the 20mm 1.8 on a Nikon D750. So we're going to start here by adding the Urban non-Fujifilm preset, and it's going to come out a little dark at first. This is normal, so don't be too alarmed. It's really just trying to keep all the dynamic range tamed in the beginning. So then I'm going to bump up the exposure quite a bit, probably to right here. And then, so I do have this other preset, basically, it's called Max Dynamic Range, and it's just basically going to max out the shadows and reduce the highlights all the way. That's what that's for. So here you can see that it's going to bring out the shadows. This dude over here in the taxi, and I'm going to bring down the highlights just a little bit more. And when you do increase the dynamic range, it's going to reduce the contrast a little bit. So I'm just going to bump it a tad here. And then let's see. I think now is a good point for me to kind of just like fix the white balance. Drop that down. Let's cool it down just a little bit. And then it's a little too green for me, so I'm going to bump that up there. And that's looking pretty good to me. And I want to put a little bit of like crunch to it. So I'm going to increase the clarity just a little bit to like 30 right here. And this is pretty much almost a finished product for me. But there is one step I do take. First I'm going to check my sharpening first. I'm going to check the sharpening. And pro tip, if you don't know, if you hold down the Alt key or Option on a Mac, it brings up kind of like this filter, so you can check out kind of like how much the sharpening is affecting here. So here I'm just trying to make sure it's not like super crunchy. Bring it down right about like 1 or so, and you can bring up the detail and do the same thing. And for the masking, you just pretty much want to mask out the unimportant parts and textures. Cool. And then kind of like one thing that everybody is surprised that I do, or they don't really realize that I do all the time, is I like to use these graduated filters. So my most popular used graduated filter is the burn, what I call the burn graduated filter, which is just negative 0.32 on the exposure. And basically here I just drop that down this way. And I just really use it to kind of just like draw in focus. Let's see. I don't know if things are still going. All right, cool. So that's pretty much, oops, that's not it. The final edit right here. Let's see. Awesome. Cool. And then, so next I'm going to move on to this other photo right here, which is at Disneyland, which is a place that you guys know that I frequent quite a bit. At first we're just gonna again apply the preset, and here we can use the Fujifilm one because it's a XD2 file. Send it to here. Let me see if this is stream. Let's see. Cool. All right. Let me know in the comments if you guys are still able to see and hear me. I'm getting some random status updates from YouTube saying that it's like dipping out and stuff. So yeah, from right here, the exposure is pretty much where I want it. But I do want to do that max dynamic range again, just to kind of bring out the shadows. And then here I'm going to, I think the highlights are dropped down a little bit too much. So I'm going to put it right here. And then, let's see. White balance is a little bit too cool for me, so let's bring that up and warm it up a little bit. I'm going to do here. And again, if you guys have any questions as I'm doing this, just let me know. I'm trying my best to explain what I'm doing, but a lot of this stuff is muscle memory and like eye memory for me. So here I've kind of warmed it up. This is a sunset photo, so it's going to be more on the warmer side. It's a little bit more stylized. And then let's see. So again, I'm gonna, especially with Fujifilm files, everybody doesn't like those worms. So this is gonna have that 0 on the detail slider. If you haven't seen my other sharpening video, that's super important when editing Fuji files in Lightroom. And then here I'm gonna press Alt, and then just check out the radius again. And then we're gonna pull up the masking. That's looking pretty good. And then for this one, again, I'm going to use my kind of secret weapon to draw the eye a little bit closer into this Ferris wheel. So I'm going to pull in that burn gradient filter from one side and the other. And that kind of gives you very subtle effect to just kind of like make sure you're looking at the right thing in the photo if the lighting isn't 100% making you do that. So I do this almost with every single photo that I do, just because it's a little bit less obvious than a vignette and less obvious than a radius filter, or what is this called, a radial filter. So yeah, so this is pretty much this final edit right here, and just to show you guys what these final photos are looking like. So here's a comparison of this New York City photo, and then oops, here we go. And then here's this Ferris wheel one. So there's a little bit of crop that I added that I didn't show you guys, but here you can see that this preset really does bring out the oranges and the blues and gives it a nice little bit of moodier tone. And then this one is probably one of my favorite photos of the bunch that I was kind of advertising the Urban preset with. So for this one, I'm going to, again, apply the preset. But for this one, I want to use the classic chrome Fujifilm color profile. Typically, this preset usually starts with Adobe Standard just because it does the reds a little bit better. But here I wanted to use classic chrome just for a little bit more punch. So let's see. Obviously, it's a little too dark, so let's bring up the exposure just a little bit, and then I'm gonna bring up the shadows. Okay. And then here it's just a little bit too cool for me, so I'm gonna bring this to around here, 6,000 on the white balance. And then let's see. Tint is okay. And then in this photo, obviously this bridge right here is the focal point. So what I'm going to do is with the graduated filter, I'm going to go from the bottom here. And then I'm going to add 2 other ones on this other side, but probably less strong. Something like that. And then bring that on the other side. Probably not that one. In order to show this right here, just press O to change the overlay. That really helps to kind of see what parts it's touching on the photo. Cool. All right. And of course we got to check the sharpening. Always checking the sharpening. Again, Option or Alt, and dragging the slider will let you see this mass here. And then to show you guys the before and after, that is the difference right there. And then this last one is at Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland. So I had somebody comment on a video today saying like, where is this Star Wars place? It's in Disneyland in California, in Anaheim, and they also have it at Disney World in, I believe, Magic Kingdom Park in Orlando. Yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan, definitely recommend checking out Galaxy's Edge. So here, this one was taken on the XE3. So I'm going to add the Urban preset and the classic chrome color profile. And here, this is like super contrasty. So this is why I have this like contrast fix preset, because sometimes it's just too much. So it's pretty much just a quick fix to do -20 right here on the contrast. And then now we can kind of bump up the exposure to bring everything back. And then this one, I think I'm going to use this maximum dynamic range thing here. And then let's see. So white balance. All right. So looking pretty good right there. And then I'm going to put some graduated filters right here. All right. And then for this top one, if you guys aren't aware, there is also a luminance mask, which basically lets you tailor the graduated filter to just affect certain brightness areas. All right. That way it's only affecting right there. Let's see. And I'm just in the white balance a little bit right here. And obviously we're going to go check out the sharpening. Cool. All right. So just to give you guys an idea of how this preset can kind of make a whole bunch of photos from different places kind of fit more together. Here's a taste of obviously how much dynamic range and how much like moodiness this preset can do. So a lot of this comes into how you capture the photo before. And you really need to use kind of like lower ISOs and make sure your histograms are not clipping anywhere. So yeah. And now that we've got those edits out of the way, I did want to kind of start announcing the winners of the free RBP Urban preset from your guys' photo submissions. And basically I've picked out, so there's 3 people, but one of the submission guys, Corey, I picked out 2 of his photos because he just had so many like dope shots that he submitted. I had to edit 2 of them. So we have Corey Clevenger. If you're on the chat, send me an email at my email address, info@reggiephotography.com. And then let's see who else. Then we have Nathan Wasserman. Sorry if I'm butchering that, but Nathan, your shot got selected too. And then we have Jason Snyder. So you 3 guys, shoot me an email, and also just resubmit the photos, so I just make sure that you guys aren't just pretending to be the winner. So I'm gonna go ahead and start editing your guys' photos with this preset. Alright, so this photo is not a Fuji, it's a Nikon, but it's a crop sensor, so a Nikon D7 7200. So somebody asked me, do I have presets? Yes, this is what this video is demoing my newest preset. But if you go in the video description, I have a link to my preset store, so check it out right there. And if you are interested, 50% off for the rest of until midnight Pacific time if you use the discount code that's listed in the description. All right, so let's get started with this one. I'm gonna straighten it up first so that I can line up this like sign thing. Let's see. All right. And because we're using a non-Fuji camera, we're going to use here, this non-Fuji. And then, so right off the bat, for these night shots, typically for a night shot, you don't want to reduce the highlights like too much. So I'm going to back it off and adjust it as I go. Probably right here for now. And then let's raise the exposure. I don't think shadows are going to do too much, so I'm going to raise the exposure to right about here. And then for these really like night shots, like very low light shots, sometimes shadows doesn't do that much, but you'll notice that raising the black point might help a little bit more with that. So here the street lights and the car lights are a little bit too hot for me. All right there. And then at this point, the biggest thing I want to change is the white balance. So kind of like this like mix of like the yellowish and the bluish tones right here. Cool. All right. Let's see. And then I'm going to come in and bring in the graduated filter from this side. And then somebody here said, how dare you use Nikon? Like, I used to shoot Nikon before, so I'm still a fan. All right, let's see. All right. All right, so I'm gonna probably darken this side a little bit more right here. All right, cool. And so there's a little bit of high ISO here, so I'm gonna decrease probably the radius just a little bit. Adjust the detail. Cool. And then actually Nikons don't need that much noise reduction, so it's looking pretty good right here. And then I do want to see if I can do a right there. So you post that on Instagram with the vertical crop. The 4x5 or the 8x10 is the maximum vertical that you can get. Oops. That's kind of what I want to do with that photo right there. Awesome. Cool. All right. Just gonna call that one done right there. So awesome shot, Corey. Let's see what do you use? 17 to 50, 2.8. I don't even know what that lens is, if that's a Nikon or not. Cool. All right. So on to the next shot of Corey's is this kind of like city scene. Again, it's a D70-200, so we're going to put this right here, and then first things first, I'm going to try to boost the shadows. Right there. A little bit too blue, so let's bring this back to like more realistic color tone. So around here. Awesome. It does look a little bit too HDR-y, so you need to watch out for that. So I'm going to drop this shadows just a little bit, just so it doesn't look super fake. Instead of doing that, I'm going to actually drop a gradient filter at the top. Let's see. And this one was a super low ISO shot. Adjusting the masking. Cool. Awesome. Here, this is where the luminance mask comes in handy again. So you just want to drag this over until you're just targeting mostly just the highlights. So if you don't use that, there you go. Let's see. All right. This is affecting a little bit of the top of the building. So what I'm going to do is open up the brush real quick and turn on erase and press O on my keyboard. And just kind of make sure you leave auto mask on, and then just like erase this part that's on the building. This building's like one of the main focal points of that part. Just paint that in there. All right. So then here you can kind of see the effect of what that did is just targeted just the sky right there. All right. So I'm just going to finish up with these graduated filters to draw in the focus to this building right here. And this is pretty much my edited shot right here. Liking how that looks. And here is a Fujifilm X-E3 shot with the kit lens at ISO 8000. So it's actually not too bad as far as like the noise, but we'll see how it works out, because the Urban preset does bring back the highlights a lot, so it's gonna darken it up a lot. But let's see how we can fix this. It's gonna bump up the exposure a bit here, and then let's bring let's see, right there. So there's some noise in here, but it's not bad. It's kind of looks like film. Don't like to say that because a lot of Fujifilm people go like, oh, the grain's like film, and I think that's a cop out. But in this case, it actually looks nice. Looks nice. Good job, Nathan. Just going for the shot, and then we're gonna raise the black point a little bit to get a little bit more detail right here, and then let's see, cool. And this right here should be a little bit more blue, so I'm gonna bring the highlights down to get it back to that blue. And let's fix the white balance here. This is just kind of like my own taste, but I just don't like it. Probably more realistic here. Cool. And then not really liking like this thing right here. A little bit distracting, so I'm going to crop it in. See how that works. No. I might have to bring that into Photoshop, but alright. So here's where like the heavy lifting is going to go. So we're going to try to calm down a lot of this noise. So this is my default Fujifilm starting point. So with high ISO shots and just grainy stuff, you want to bring down the amount just a little bit. And then drop the radius probably as low as you can. And then bring the masking back in and try to mask out anything that's like not really important, or it's like a full shadow right here. And then I'm going to bring this up to like 25 or 30. And when you actually post this on the web, it's not really going to be that big of a deal. Let's see, what's this thing? So, and then let's bring some graduated filters here, draw some focus in. Let's see. Cool. And darken this side a little bit, shut down that like orange thing. All right, so that's looking pretty good right there. It's kind of like, yeah, looks pretty good. And this is like a true street photo, like with people and all that stuff. All my photo examples were travel stuff, so really liking this shot, Nathan. Cool. And then let's see. So we got this other shot by Jason Snyder, or Schneider. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. This one was shot with the XT2, so we're going to put this RBP Fujifilm preset. And probably want to put the classic chrome on there too, just to kind of give it a little bit more punch. So this is kind of like a mannequin or something. I really like this blue accent, so that's kind of what I'm going to go for when I do this edit. This orange sign, I'm going to probably try to calm that down a little bit, so we'll see. So I'll bring this up here. Let's see if this will do anything. Let's bring up the shadows just a little bit. We'll bring the exposure back down. Let's highlight there. All right. Alright, and as I'm wrapping this photo up, since there's a little bit of delay, as I'm finishing up this photo, let me know in the chat like what questions you have about what I did so far, since this is pretty much going to be the last one. That way, as I'm finished up with it, I can answer you guys' questions. Alright, so it's looking pretty good right here. I do think this is a little distracting, so I might try to desaturate this thing right here. Hey, what the heck? That did not work. So that one fixed that one right there. Cool. And then here you can see all these photos. Three different photographers, and I think 3 different places, but they're all pretty cohesive now. And we can even bring in all the rest of the other photos. Just kind of see how those look together. Cool. Awesome. Then I see someone's asking me when the wedding behind the scenes video is coming out. It's coming out hopefully by the end of the year or the first thing of next year. I'm also working on a how I use Flash for wedding photography video. And I've got Godox helping me get some gear to review for that one. But yeah, let's see. All right. So if you have any other questions, let me know. But I'd like to let you guys know again, this is the last day that we're going to have the preset sale. Let's see, let me go back to here. This is the last day that we're going to have the preset sale for not only just the RBP Urban, but all of the presets, 50% off with BF 2019 discount code. Use that in the checkout. And now I'm going to kind of just check out your guys' chats real quick and just see. Let's see, Brett just bought the Godox V1. Awesome. And Buddy Walrus is asking if I do any soft proofing if getting for the prints. For me, what I do is I color calibrate all my monitors, but I also print it at a professional printer, and they do their own color correction as well. For prints that I do at home, I don't really do any soft proofing or anything. I just print it out and kind of get what I get. I do let Lightroom do the color management, but I'm not a colorist in that regard, or pretty much, I don't do a lot of print workflow at home. So for that, I would recommend something like, I think they have like a Color Monkey like print version that you can, it has a colorimeter that also looks at the prints and kind of matches them both ways. So I'd take a look into something like that, more a studio color management instead of just a monitor color management device. So Darren is asking if I could go over the luminance masking again, and I have a video on that. Just kidding, I'll go over it. Let's see. So let's go back to Corey's photo right here, just to show you guys. Let's see the difference. So what I'm going to do here is, so yeah, this one. So basically the luminance masking, because I need to get rid of all the other ones, is going to, without it, it's going to affect everything. So it's going to darken the shadows right here. It's going to darken the midtones of this building as well as the highlights. What the luminance masking does though is it can target specific luminance values. That's why it's called luminance masking. So you can start out with, from the bottom side right here, you're going to target mostly highlights. So you're going to, the white part is what's going to be affected by the gradient filter. And conversely, if you go from the back side, you can only affect the darker parts. So if you just wanted to only affect the darker parts of the image, you can totally avoid the highlights. Or go the other way. And now this mostly affects just the sky. It's going to get a little bit of the building. That's why for this photo, I use the brush. No, not that brush. The brush to like erase some of this stuff. Cool. Let's see where the chat is. Cool. All right. Cool. I think that's about it for me. Did about like 45 minutes or so. Hopefully you guys learned something new about how to just edit Fujifilm files in general, and also to see kind of like the power of using presets. I think the best methodology to use presets is to take what you like, leave out what you don't like, and make the preset that you like. Oh, and I guess I can kind of show you guys how to do that. But basically, if you want to make your own type of remix of any type of preset, for example, for this one, it has, let's see, not this one, this one. So it has a classic chrome in it. What you can do is you can basically use this entire look that you have in order to make your own remix. Just come up here, create preset, and put it in the urban, and then select all, and then just take off what you don't want. So here I'm going to take off this stuff. I usually take off exposure too, because exposure always changes. Same as white balance. Then you can basically create a new preset to use on a different photo. So now if I wanted to, say, add that to this one, I can use this new remix preset, this untitled preset, as a starting point, and just change the white balance. See, now I'm good to go. It's pretty much already there. So if you want to get close to a one-click preset, iterate and edit a lot of photos, create your like perfect remix, and then you'll be that much closer to a one-click preset. But if you see how quickly I was able to do that, because I used a look from a different photo. All right. And then I'm going to check if there's any last more minute questions. All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in for the first ever live stream